Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. This is our holiday episode.
It is our last episode of 2024. And while that's sad, we're really excited to move on to next year. And essentially the whole theme of this episode is going to be an ode to 2025. We feel very positive right now.
Very positive.
We feel very future focused.
Yes.
And are mostly wanting to talk about some themes and trends and visuals and, you know, productivity, motivating aspects of life that we're hoping we see starting in 2025, if not earlier.
Right. And we think that it's not just going to be 2025, but that we're entering a golden age, not just an era, an age, like a 5 to 15, maybe 20-year period of renaissance, renewal, just reintegration of a better culture, society from all different points of view, economically, culturally, art, musically, like all the relationship, psychology, all these things that like affect us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I think that at least for the last 5 years, I think politics was so at the core center of everyone's day-to-day life, like for good or bad, whatever, and everything was seen through that lens. And it was critical for that moment in time for various different reasons, because it was a period of awakening. It was a period of waking up to the fact that we were being drugged with different things, that our water was being filled with chemicals, and that our politicians didn't.
All of those had a tie to legislation and political
reasons,
individuals, and motivations that were beyond just human nature.
Right.
So it felt like there was such a series of events all the time that were important to follow. And we've talked about this in previous episodes, and we'll repeat it again because it's important to just like set the scene for, where we're at and why we're passionate about these topics and about moving forward is, I mean, we've both been so sucked into following these events, and
too much.
Honestly, I am happy to say that I think I've forgotten a lot of it. You know, it's just some minute details, a part of each event that, we've moved past and might not be relevant anymore. But there's still a lot that lives in our recent memory that, may or may not stress us out every now and then, just thinking back to how much time and stress and emotion has gone towards some of these things. And I know that we're not alone in that a lot of Americans have been through that loop.
Right. And I think that I think you said it so beautifully, like the things that were affecting our day-to-day life you could trace it back to politics, which is why, like, if you wanted to get to the root of the problem, you ultimately had to get involved in that sphere of our country and of the world and the thought expression, even if that isn't your natural inclination, even if your natural inclination is to be like, I'm not a political person, I want to do my own thing, I want to whatever, like everyone was getting drawn into it because it was becoming so invasive. And I feel like
invasive
finally
and pervasive. It bled into everything, especially even health. That's something that
shouldn't be
people
political.
think should be separation of church and state. That's its own tier on its own. But no, it's been well integrated into politics, and that's why it's ultra important to understand that.
Right. And I feel like the reason why we're entering this golden era is because I feel like November, how the election went, how just the vibes that are out there, I feel like that was the bookend that we needed of this 5-year period of what I would call a discovery chaotic time that was needed, because you need things to get so bad in your personal life and as a country as a whole, as a world. You want to hit rock bottom to get back to a renaissance period. Yeah. And so I think that we hit such a rock bottom, and thank goodness, in my opinion, how I felt on election night was just that it was surreal that God had mercy on our country and that he was like, I'm going to give you like another shot at this. Like, let's see what you can do. And that brings us back to our level up.
The reset button was pushed.
Right.
By that was the starting point.
Right.
And now we're in this housekeeping phase, and it's pretty fitting at the end of the year where people are reflecting on 2024, reflecting on the year, maybe setting some New Year's resolutions for 2025. And so it's a big housekeeping phase. And I think even the Trump team is in that right now. They're preparing to go back to DC and start on day one.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's on all different levels. We're doing housekeeping, but all of it is hopefully in pursuit of some real flourishing happening. And that's not just financially. I think there's going to be a portion of this episode where we're going to talk about some economic trends and things, financially that I think are going to change for everyone. No matter what.
That's the minority of what we're talking about.
That is such a minority. We're talking about like a larger, like moral mindset.
And, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I'd say most of it's mindset oriented.
It's a compass resetting. It's a reorientation of like, what are your priorities? What do you value? How are you going to go about day-to-day things, larger goal things? How are you going to realign your biology, your psychology, all that stuff, like your relationships? And I think that for me, like, I feel like it was providence that Trump didn't win in 2020. He won now. I think we needed to go through that period of like awakening. And I don't think
that is such a silver lining.
I don't think that
rose-colored glasses statement.
I
love it.
I don't think that he had the team. There's two reasons why I think that. First, I don't think he had the team then. And I don't think that he was in the right state of mind to take over at that time. Because if we think back to that era, RFK was not on his side. JD Vance was not his VP. Nope. He had horrible weirdo Pence. He did not have a Vec. He didn't have these millennial, younger Gen X people that are going to take over from him. Now he can be kind of like the grandpa that's like gearing up to entrust the country to the next generation to lead. And he's also picked the best of the best in all these different areas to help him tackle all these problems.
From a variety of ages.
Right.
We now have more women in his camp. We didn't have any in 2020.
No women.
So there's more representation. There's more people in different realms of their careers and specialties that we can bring them in, and it really is so balanced out.
Right. And it's actually, I think, gonna be somewhat revolutionary. And even just like the image of him being in Mar-a-Lago versus that stale White House, like DC is it's a very dark place. Like DC is a very very, when you think about like cosmic energy and like, places have, like, I believe places have souls, like, that transcend your lived experience. Like, your lived experience is like added on to that. That's why, like, I feel like when I go to places like Southern California, like, you feel that like 70s free love energy. Like, you grab onto that, and DC just has a bad vibe.
I know. It's very angular. It's pretty sterile. It's very white. The buildings, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't feel like life lives and breathes there.
No, and it has the richest neighborhoods.
I wonder if it was always like that, because it wasn't built that long ago, but I wonder what the design vision was when they were first designing these architectural buildings there. If they thought that what it feels like right now would be what that aura was. Because I don't think that they would have wanted the aura that we think that we're explaining it as right now. I don't think that they would have wanted it to be that way.
Yeah, probably not. And I don't think it's always been that way. But I think that when you think of like the neighborhoods around DC and those being like, those are the richest neighborhoods in the country, and there's no industry there. Like, there's no production. It's all fake business, which we're going to talk about in this. Like, I think that with our
politics,
politics, it is fake business. But with all, and I think Trump's bringing in real business. Like, he's bringing in that sense of clarity. And so the image of him at Mar-a-Lago and all this stuff, I think it's kind of like, it feels very revolutionary. Like, it feels like there's a separate base that's setting up and a separate camp, and it's going to go in and infiltrate and have that like effect to everyone. And I do feel like, I think that Trump is like in this soft grandpa vibe that is a more of a unity feeling where we can all kind of like relax and step out of politics and focus on what we want to talk about today, which is our leveling up era, our golden, or not era, but age, our golden age, and our ins and outs list.
Yes.
You know?
We have a pretty thorough ins and outs list, and we've done series of this before. We've made graphics and put them
pages
on our Instagram and stuff, but this one is probably the longest we've done.
Yes.
But do we explain the difference between era and age?
No, we should do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I mean, obviously everyone knows the term era has been used a lot more. Obviously, Taylor Swift has brought some popularity to that. But to me, the word era is a lot more temporary. And so I think when explaining this golden phase that we're entering into, we should say golden age versus golden era, because it seems more solidified. It seems more of a commitment, a longer term, non-temporary period of time. And I am going to take it very seriously. And I think that this episode maybe being our manifesto of the things that we want to see, we want you guys to be on board with the age versus era thing and really call it the golden age. Like we have the power to create it. It's not just going to happen. Phases like this don't just happen out of nowhere. It takes an alignment of all of us, mindset wise, routines wise, values wise, effort wise, work wise, all of these things to be aligned for an age like this to actually end up happening.
We're also entering the age of Aquarius, which ties into
age again. Okay.
Golden age. So if anyone doesn't know, the age of Aquarius, allegedly.
And you're an Aquarius.
I'm an Aquarius. So like this is really personal to me because I do identify as Aquarius in terms of
you're about to pop off.
No, in terms of just like Aquarius. I'm not like we're not super what's it called?
We
astrologic.
Yeah, we're not astrologists.
No,
and
we're not new agey.
Yeah, we're not super into that. But we do know some things about our signs, and personally, I feel like I resonate with mine.
Yes,
and we've been thinking about doing a whole separate episode about that because, as we've learned recently, we are extremely compatible with our signs.
Are very compatible,
and the strengths and weaknesses in that compatibility. It's pretty perfect. I'm a Gemini and I was an Aquarius. So, we match up on a bunch of different things. But we kind of only recently figured that out, which I'm surprised about.
I know. It was like a late night discovery.
A little late on the wave.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't figure that out earlier. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But anyways, Aquarius, like that name, that term, it goes with like being revolutionary. It means that you hold value towards independence, individuality, authenticity, honesty, all these things. You are a humanitarian. It's just kind of like a revolutionary vibe. Like you're always looking like
zooming out,
big picture,
best
idea wins. Like
visionary.
It's not really about. You're not really stubborn because you want the best outcome for everyone. Like you're not trying to be like my idea wins. It's whatever the best idea wins.
Okay.
So anyways, that happens apparently every 250 years. The last time it happened was when America was founded, and we're now re-entering that on our 250th year anniversary.
So next year, 2026.
2026, yeah.
On July 4th will be America's 250th anniversary.
Right.
Which is so cool. And the fact that falls even just within a couple years of 2025.
Right.
Like a very similar pattern of numbers there. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. I've basically already decided that no matter where I'm at in life, I want to make sure I'm on U.S. soil for the 4th of July.
I'm thinking Montana rodeo, Wyoming,
like
something.
An American-ass celebration.
Yeah.
And apparently Trump is going to he wants to coordinate something or have.
It's a whole year of things.
Yeah.
And apparently there's going to be celebrations from May to end of August. Like it's going to be a summer, and it's going to be like in all the national parks. Like, like there's going to be free admission to like nature stuff. Like I think it's going to be a big Americana road tripping, horseback riding.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stay in the Americana phase until then.
Right.
I'm just forever going to be in it.
And I think I think our ins and outs list is about not trends, but like things that, like you said, you want to be committed to and staying in for a long period of time.
Yeah, yeah. I think a proper ins and outs list should be rooted somewhat in timelessness, like things that we feel very immovable on. And a lot of the examples on this list are things that we've talked about like since years ago when we first started recording. So the fact that through all of this growth and development and things that we've occurred in life, that those takes and those, those ins and outs for us haven't changed means like there's weight to that. I think there's a reason behind that. And to us, they're timeless.
And some of these, like, I feel like we just had vibes, and now we're able to actually articulate like specifics of what those ins and outs are.
Yeah.
But yeah,
can we start with the symbols first?
Yes.
Because I think that this can help set the tone for just things that I've had visually in my head that remind me of what I want to start to see in 2025.
Okay.
A big one is gold, because it's so pervasive. I mean, there's so many symbols that go into that. Obviously not just wealth related, but like the color of it. It's so distinct. Like there's no substitute for that. And it's backed by a material. It's timeless. We've seen it all across history. It's shiny. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Our economy is better when it's on the gold standard versus a fiat currency system.
Yeah.
We've talked about that endlessly. Like,
it has
go back
spiritual ties. It has economic ties. It has just the amount of symbolic ties that gold has as a color, as a aspect of the world, of the natural world. Like, it's really beautiful to me.
Can we also talk about gold in terms of lighting? Like, I'm very anti LED light. I'm very pro warm light, like
same.
Traditional light. I forget what that's called, but like a traditional light bulb
Like
situation.
Can lights. Guys,
candles, like all that is like more golden. Like I would say it's warm lighting. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know.
It's more similar to the sun, because sunlight is gold.
Right.
It's not this like blue light that,
it's cold,
is clearly affecting all of our mental health in a really bad way. I mean, you feel the difference when you open up your phone and you look at blue light the first thing in your day versus a warm candle or sunlight or something with that warmth.
Right. And like even in hospitals, they used to have these things called sunroofs where they would like take their patients out and roll them up in their bed to like the sunroof to get fresh air and sunlight. And they used to wrap bandages in linen, which is a high frequency fabric. And, in the streets, like our lights used to be either real, like kind of candle lights, or before that, it wasn't LED lights. It was more of a warmer street light. Mm-hmm. If you've noticed, over time, they've replaced all that with LED sterile lights everywhere. Like everywhere you go out in public.
So over LEDs.
And that was one of the main reasons I didn't give birth in a hospital, was because of the lighting option.
No, it actually makes me feel bad. And I've been trying to get my family on this, because a couple of my family members, including my mom, loves to have like her can lights on. I think it's just habitual for her. Okay. But like, when I go over and it's all of the kitchen lights on, it actually gives me a headache. Like I have a physical reaction to it.
You've been ahead of this trend, because I lived with Jordan and she would like cook in the dark.
I love the dark. When it's like nighttime, like I try to like lean into that.
Yeah, you would never turn on any overhead lights ever.
And I have my orbs where I could like set the mood.
I would come in and it would be like could tell like if she was like hungover, ready to go out, or like ready to nuzzle in for the night, because of like what the vibe of the color would be in your room.
Yeah, like a hungover night would be like red, like I'm in the dark, like I do not feel good. But then like a creative would be like a teal, or I
like
had
a blue
light bulbs where I could change the color of them. But yeah, beyond that, I love warm light the most. So I agree. That's cool. There's gold in other aspects outside of just gold and the color gold.
Right. Yeah. And that leads us to just color and vibrancy and maximism, like all of that stuff. I mean, you can tell even just like this wall is so just like
it's human. It's human, and there's life, and it's got character, and the world has so many colors every place you go has a different palette. And
Right.
I just, it makes me sad to see how many design trends are going toward this minimalism and ultra neutrality that doesn't seem fitting in so many contexts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to have a space that's tidy and like a little more earthy. Like that's like kind of neutrality in design that I do like.
Because it's thoughtful. It's still
But I'm
oriented
just
that
seeing
way.
it going way too far on that neutrality spectrum. And like hospitals just are so sterile. It's just white and like angular lines. It's cold. The materials they choose are cold.
I don't want your house to
It's
look.
like death. I don't know how else to explain it.
I don't want your house to look like a hospital.
Yeah.
And just like
Like we're given
everything.
sight and the ability to see color for a reason.
Cars too. Like cars used to be so like if you think about cars in like the 70s, 60s, like they used to be so big and colorful.
Yes.
Like, you used to get a car that would like match your personality. And now, and I'm victim to this. I don't want to say victim, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I have a white Tesla. That's just so basic. It's so
The most ironic thing about Ella.
I know everyone is just they're like this doesn't add up, and I'm like I know,
No,
but
no, it's fine.
I have my reasons for that. But
There's no perfect car.
I drove for my credit. I drove a old school car, like vintage. Not like it was almost vintage. It was like 25. It was like almost 25 years old car for a very long time. Like I drove that thing to the ground. So I did prescribe to that
Truly.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's not like you're gonna have your Tesla forever. So.
No, it's just it's hard when you live in a city like Phoenix where it is really hot for so many months during the summer and you want a car that has like a newer AC system. But like when I lived out in California, it didn't really matter because it was nice all the time.
Yeah,
there.
true. No, it's a functional choice.
Yeah.
For sure. I think there's a reason why certain eras that have had a lot of color are so memorable. The 80s come to mind to me.
The
mean,
70s
every
for me.
movie poster from a movie or film that came out in the 80s was just packed with color.
Yeah.
And they're so memorable. They're vivid. Like, I just want to bring that vividness back into life visually. Also, yeah, culturally. Like, I just want that zest back.
Yeah,
in
like
everyone.
even in the Wicked, I don't know if you saw this, but even in the Wicked film, I didn't see the film, but I watched some of the PR videos and like I watched about how they did the coloring and all that stuff. And someone brought up that they chose to make that movie more neutral. Like they dampened the
They desaturated.
they desaturated it, and that wasn't just like a cost cutting thing or like they didn't have someone that could do that skill set. It was a active choice. And when you think back to the original Wizard of Oz, I think that was the first colored film in the history of the country.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And it was a really big deal. And you think about how vibrant that film was with the pinks and the greens and the silvers and the blues and the yellows. And it's the exact opposit for this prequel, remake, whatever.
Yeah.
And
people have been complaining about it because
Yeah.
it kind of does obstruct the IP. It goes against the IP of what The Wizard of Oz was and, you know, what so much of that character and that story was based around, which was this land, this like magical,
Yeah.
you know, fantasy land. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but people love it outside of that, but I did hear that complaint too. And that's not the only film that we see that in. It's been in so many.
Oh my gosh, it's in like so much art, so much photography, so much design, like just it's really hard also living like we live in Phoenix and a lot of people are like, "Oh, Phoenix, like it doesn't have like historic buildings. It's such a new city, a new state, like it doesn't have a style." But no, if you go back and you look at and you can still find buildings. Like if you know where to go, like you can find old buildings, but we have really bad historic preservation laws here, and so things just have gotten torn down. But you go back and like we had such great like googie architecture from like the 60s to the 80s that was in like our bowling alleys and our movie theaters, and like there's very few of those in our diners. Like there's very few of those buildings left, which was kind of inspired by like the space age of the 60s and like lots of color and like kind of like angular but circular.
Yeah.
Like it's
A
a
combination of different shapes.
and very shape oriented. And then we also were inspired by like Palm Springs, and you can even, if you go down a few streets here, the Valley Hotel is like very Palm Springs, very mid-century, and there's a few complexes that are still like apartment complexes around there that like have condos that kind of still have that similar thing. But even like we have irrigated lots here that goes back to like the Native Americans, their irrigation system that's like obviously a part of our state, and all these people that are moving in with what you would call like new money, or what we would call, what did we call it?
Dirty money.
Dirty money jobs, like OnlyFans, content, selling,
Drug dealing.
so many. Fashion Square. You go to Fashion Square now, you go to a nice restaurant there.
Yep.
And you're like, what scene am I
It's like
at?
escorts, it's drug dealers, it's promoters, it's probably human traffickers.
Probably.
It's
horrible.
OnlyFans managers. It's just, yeah.
You feel like you're in Vegas.
There's never been a time with more dirty money job outlets than right now today.
Right.
I genuinely think,
Right.
especially with the internet, I feel
Right.
like every other thing, there's a dirty money equivalent to how you can make money with it.
Right. And yeah, like the best example I can give, and you know this story, is that on a street of my family members, you know, it has all these great irrigated lots, ranch style homes, mid-century style homes, and these big yards with oak trees and palm trees and grass. Yeah. And it's also sustainable because the grass is a more durable grass that can survive in the desert as long as you do irrigation. And the way irrigation goes, it goes through it cycles through lot by lot by lot. Like, it's a very sustainable system. Anyways, long story short, the houses are getting torn down. They're maxing out the lots. They're building these boxdales, is what I call it, a boxdale, which is an all-white house. Scottsdale boxdale.
Boxdale. Oh my gosh.
So
I mean, it is. And it's so sad because we had so much character, and now it's just becoming
it's a huge white box. And we're
with maybe a window.
With me, and then it has turf, and I hate turf so much.
Maybe a gazebo, but it's like white stakes and like a little roof. Like, that's not a gazebo either.
Right. And then it's a couple moving in, which what happened on this street, and they're my age, and they're buying a $3.8 million home, which the valuation is skeptical because the land's only worth $1 million, and that's a whole nother story of another day. But like, they're overpaying for this house because they have OnlyFans money, and they're my age, and it's like, that's not a starter home, and it's inflating normal people to be able to buy like a starter home.
So people who can, quote unquote, afford these homes, they're not helping the problem. They're perpetuating the problem.
Because now the appreciation of all the homes around it that maybe would only be...
Because they're following what's the demand or what's the norm right now.
So then now the appraisal, because that's sold at that high price now, these houses, when they get appraised, they're going to be appraised higher, which is great if you bought that house in the 90s at $200K. But if you're someone our age trying to get into a neighborhood...
It screws us.
It screws us.
And we don't even put value in designs of homes like that anyway.
No, it's all based off square footage. And that's the sad thing too, is that's why these houses get torn down, is because why would you, if you have an acre size lot and you have a 2,000 square foot house, you got to tear it down or something, because otherwise that's just now land value. Like, sorry, now this is becoming a real estate development podcast.
No.
But like,
it's a great example though of things that we're seeing even just driving around town. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyways, we want to get back to eliminating that so that we can have more of this like authentic long-term things that are family focused and wholesome and, you know, all that stuff.
I think, okay, back to the minimalism versus maximalism conversation. I think that we're seeing minimalism in so many more things than just visual design. I think we're even seeing it in like music, and especially with all of the tools we now have to make electronic music. I just see so much copy and paste, and that is minimalism in a way, right? It's just this boiling down to like the most basic, foundational type of work
Right.
that somehow makes money.
Right.
It just works because it's just basic and it checks the boxes. And that to me is minimalism, like something that just simply checks the boxes and there's nothing special about it. And maximalism to me, how I just see the concept outside of just color and, vibrancy, is there's character in it. There's something that makes it special or something that makes it distinct comparing to something else.
That's such a good point. It's soulless. And that's why I feel like a lot of the things, the common denominator is like, okay, we have
what has soul versus what
has
doesn't.
soul doesn't. We put cooking at home versus going to a restaurant. Used to go to a restaurant, and there's still these restaurants, don't get me wrong. And the restaurants that exist like this, like I love going to them. But so many restaurants you go to nowadays that quote unquote have good food or have a good atmosphere. You go there and it's like you can tell a corporation made the food. Like it feels soulless and it's expensive, and you're around, like we just outlaid the crowd in Scottsdale.
Yep.
You're with the crowd of soulless people, and the food feels soulless and the environment feels soulless, and you're like, I just spent $150. The cocktail feels soulless.
Yeah, like I tipped 20% even though I just ordered my food on an iPad. It's like I think restaurants where it used to be a family, like everything that they had inside the restaurant, the photos that they had from their family, like there were ways that restaurants were able to integrate that soul into this transactional type of environment,
right,
to still make it feel like it had the soul,
right.
But I just feel like year by year we're removing those elements and those little details that at least kind of try to bring it in.
Right
now we don't even get the mints on the hostess stand at a restaurant because that's like not sanitary or whatever. Like there's just all these little things that remove the layers that are nostalgic and that we have emotion toward.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's even like, if you like going back to the copying and pasting example too, it's like the same thing could be said about, like you're saying, music with like vinyl yes. DJing vinyl music versus electronic DJing. So like how many like DJs did we meet in LA or like
Too
in
many.
college that were just
Too
like
many.
a trust fund baby?
Frat boy bedrooms that we went into that had a full like DJ setup, and you just have to look at it and be like, okay, because what do you say? But yeah, it's such a thing still. It's only growing.
Yeah, and then same thing with like online content, especially I feel like a lot of political commentators. That's why I stopped. After like 2021, I stopped listening to like almost all political podcasts because everyone, or even just like short videos, like everyone would the some event would happen in the world, and then everyone would give some variation of the same type of take, and then it was like super short formed, and it was all like just reactionary videos. There was no original content. Like I would see. An example would be, and this is no shade towards her, but like Elizabeth Brown, for example, I feel like for a while all of her content was just reactionary videos about political things. And it's like I've seen now the same three, even like female
I'd say like
influencers do the same reaction video.
Podcasters, especially in the conservative space, it's all copy paste and they're only reacting to things.
Right.
And I wonder if that's just the companies backing them being afraid to give a woman a platform to truly give an opinion without an example to base the opinion off of.
Interesting.
Because that's what kind of makes us different. And I'm not trying to like toot our own horns, but like we have never come on here and shown anyone else's content. Like we've talked about stories and events in the world,
right,
to, kind of reveal our takes through that. But we've had more episodes that are truly just this, like lining
from our own head
out our values and the things that we love about life in this world, without any examples or visuals that we're showing you along that explanation.
We've never taken like a viral video that someone has a hot take on and then be like, oh, we're going to replay this and rehash that. We've never done that. And I also think it's because I also feel bad sometimes for people that end up in those viral videos. Like there was one where the internet was going crazy about this mom that like allegedly brought her kid to a bar, and like Candace Owens was like, you should never take your kid even to a restaurant. And I don't have a problem with Candace Owens. I think she's been doing a lot of interesting like independent journalism that's been good, especially like on the uncovering like the evils of Israel and all that stuff. Like I think that's been really good. But I think my issue with her is like, I don't, just to take such a like that's such a stupid thing to take such a black and white take on. And it wasn't even clear if that was a bar or a restaurant. It wasn't even a clear video. It was just stupid.
Okay, I see. I need to find that video. I want to watch
I
the original
was
video.
like, that's something that would happen to me. Like, I would be out with Lido, like, at a bar. I mean, some of those places we went in, like, Santa Monica.
Yeah. And then a video of you gets published, and then the rest is history. You can't take that back.
Yeah,
you can't put the genie back in the
no
bottle.
one knows that we were there for dinner and just got beers, and it was only, like, 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever. Like, it wasn't like we were out.
I know. I feel like when people think of viral videos, you think of, like, a positive, like, famous person that came out of a viral video, but there's so many more of people like that didn't get paid from that. Their life actually was hindered by it. Probably it caused more stress.
Right.
They didn't get royalties or anything, so it caused more harm to the person in that video.
Right.
Than
and it's just like, why do we all have to jump on this thing and take these super black and white takes? And then my problem is that the news cycle is so fast that no one like sits and builds on these takes. Like it just happens in real time and then people just forget about it. Whereas I feel like, again, not to toot our own horn, but like these things that we've written down, our podcast, like it's always about building. It's always about this is our foundation, and then we're building. Like I just reread all of my writing from like 2020, 2021, and I was like, gosh,
I'm housekeeping.
I'm surprised. I reread all my journals recently, and the one thing I was surprised about was like, I've been really consistent. I've gotten things wrong. I've grown a lot, but like the core consistency has always been there.
The nuances slightly change. Like, right. As we grow, we put emphasis in whatever phase of life we're in. You know, certain things take higher priority than others, but the core never changes. Yeah, if you can see that through line in whatever you make in the world, I think that automatically shows that it's authentic and rooted in who you are as a person.
And that's how you get good art too, through like good art. It takes decades and years and months. Like it's not going to be something that you snapped a few photos of on your phone on vacation, threw an edit on and posted on social media. Like that's not going to be art. Like that's not going to be art.
Yeah.
Like that might be a cool aesthetic photo, but that's not going to be like.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get to in the woods of the art conversation, because that can be a couple of minutes for this episode. I just wanted to say something about Candace Owens, and I listen to Candace Owens. Okay. There's so many things that I respect and am envious of that she has. Like
her husband.
Her husband is one of them. He's so solid. I watched she interviewed him.
Okay, I haven't seen that one
on an episode this week, and I watched about half of it. It was really good. But he seems very introverted.
He's an English man.
Compared to her, because I think that she's extroverted.
Yeah.
But no, Candace is so decisive, and I love her confidence. I mean, like, anyone listening to her in any clip, I mean, she just radiates confidence. Like, she is confident in herself, and I just think that is really powerful. However, I think, to a metaphor that we were talking about earlier about, where do we want to reside on this spectrum of undercooked to halfway cooked to fully cooked, well done, when it comes to our stances on things and our opinions. And I think Candace is someone who truly thinks she's fully cooked with every single thing that she says.
This is such a good take.
And I don't think that's, it's not evil, it's not bad.
Right.
But I think it can be harmful.
Right.
And I think that a better conduit to progress is living somewhere in between halfway cooked and fully cooked.
That 80%, 75%, 80%.
And it like, think of a steak. You don't want a fully cooked, like, rubbery steak. You want
No.
something slightly under that, and not undercooked, because undercooked,
Is directionless.
it's directionless.
You can't take a stance.
It lacks
once
flavor.
important.
It lacks stability. I'm bringing in so many metaphors into this one statement, but basically what we were just saying is we want to be somewhere around 80% midway cooked, where there's enough room for changing your opinion and not feeling regret, or not having to admit, oh my gosh, I was so wrong.
Right.
Or just always, I think that if that's the neutral position for everything, I think you're in a safe.
That was so well said, and such a great way to weave in that topic, because that was a big one that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Candace. I just think that
it's a good example.
There's a way to explain why people, I think, have moved away from her or might not hear her out, is because everything she says is so matter of fact, and she doesn't leave any room for changing her mind or like debate.
Or I don't know. She doesn't leave room for an I don't know.
And I don't know. Yeah. Even for herself.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anything, I've become, the older I've gotten, the more comfortable I've gotten with the I don't knows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so freeing. I don't know is so freeing, because it means I don't have the answers. I'm human. I make mistakes. I have limitations.
I think that is confidence. Someone who can say, I don't know, reads to me as so much more confident than I know this is how it is, this is what I think, and I'm not changing how I think.
Yeah, and I think it makes you more, I think it's so important, especially as women, to be forgiving and to be able to lead that like reconciliation process with someone, and that like humanity and like authentic love, and that that unconditional love that you give to other people that deserve it. Because I think as mothers, that comes so naturally to us, like having that motherly instinct is to be able to love someone unconditionally. And that if you can like channel that and then leave room for like, I don't know, the variability, it allows you to just be more forgiving and be able to see things from other people's perspectives.
Yes, open-mindedness.
And it doesn't mean that you condone bad behavior. It doesn't mean that you don't call things out when needed, but you pick and choose the moments to do that. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, it means you have morality, and you can still it doesn't null that morality and those, moral values. It just means that, like, as things happen and we learn or we come across new events or new takes or new stances, new technology, there's so many things. It's like, I want my stances on those aspects of life to be a little movable.
Right. It's like at a certain point, to quote our good friend, not your circus, not your monkeys. Like, pick the things that you care about that affect your monkeys and your circus.
Shout out Taylor.
Shout out to Taylor. She's listening.
Amazing quote. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I mean, truly, like the amount of people that are on the internet just dabbling in other people's circuses and monkeys when they don't need to.
It's just, and creating content off it and monetizing that.
Complaining about something that's happening on the other side of the world, and like they're just in their bed all day. Like, you're a hypocrite. Yeah. Who are you to be judging this or judging another person's action when your life is a mess?
Right.
It's like, just,
focus on your monkeys.
Like, I'm the monkey that I'm trying to focus on. We're the monkeys in the circus. Focus on you as the monkey.
I literally have a 2-year-old monkey that I'm managing.
You do, yeah.
It's like, that is
You're managing 2 monkeys right now.
I have my own monkey. my own problems. No.
I love this.
But yeah, it's like that like get your orbit in check and then expand outwards.
Yeah.
And I think that this sets us up perfectly for the golden age, because dad's home. Dad's home. So we don't have to worry about that circus.
We are healing internally before we handle all the other circuses in the world.
Right.
There's a lot of them. There's Ukraine.
We're having
Russia.
We're isolating.
We need to come together as a circus. American circus first.
Right. And like, we have so many spiritual issues cultural issues right now, like dating issues, so many things.
Yes.
Should we talk about?
We should just list off the ins and outs list.
Like just go rapid
Go
fire.
through them. And if there's any that we really want to get into, we can.
Okay. Should we take turns?
How about you say the ins and I'll say the outs?
Oh, okay. That's a good way. Okay. In old cars like Toyotas and Land Rovers that you have without a car payment.
Yeah. And that have color.
We talked about that.
And are cool.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Out Teslas and Waymos.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what a Waymo is, it's those self-driving cars that are like Uber.
They're infiltrated in
I've
Phoenix.
been seeing so many malfunctioning ones in Scottsdale. I live on this street where there's a bunch of roundabouts. And I didn't see this in person, but I saw a video of it. There was just one going around the roundabout like infinitely. Stop. And I'm just like, what if I were on a walk and I just passed that? Like I'd crack up.
Well, also like if you are stuck in one and it's moving, how like I would get a headache being stuck in one that's just like going around.
Check. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. It still has the white circle around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I almost got hit by a Waymo.
Yeah.
So
wanna tell that story?
I mean, yeah. So it's not that great of a story.
Okay.
We can skip it.
No, there's
there's better
They come with
stories.
a lot of problems, so I don't know if that's ever going to get fixed. But
I was with someone
right
though.
now they're out.
I was with someone that was visiting just for the weekend, and they hadn't seen one yet because the city they lived in doesn't have them. And I feel like a combination of like being in my Tesla plus being in like seeing the Waymos, it was like they were like seeing like the future. Do you know what I like? It was just a lot, you know?
Yeah, 2 and 1.
2 and 1. Okay. Third places.
That's an in.
That's
out
an in.
Digital spaces. And digital spaces as in digital platforms, social media,
Like-
that sort of thing.
Having like your friend group be like your social outlet be digitally based.
Yes, like video games.
Right.
Chat rooms.
Like porn, just like going to a pod, like just the pod culture, like that thought of like, oh, everyone's going to be in a little pod and like all of our entertainment will just come through the pod TV, like a Wall-E situation. So the alternative,
I watch Wall-E before the end of the year.
the alternative is I think we're going to have a revival in third places, which were really big in like the 90s. I think we're going to have a revival of like the coffee shop hangouts, the wine bar hangouts. I think that things are going to be more like day oriented versus like late night oriented. I think club culture is going away. I think people like I think that you're going to have high quality people who kind of have their shit figured out internally they're going to be driving the momentum of this stuff, and slowly other people will follow. But I think in like the mid 2000s, you could find high quality guys or girls maybe at a club because it was kind of like everything was more mixed. Whereas I feel like now people are very like getting a little bit more black and white as to what they're wanting to spend their time with and like what they want to do. Because I think also like culture has gotten so, again, if we talk about like that 2019 and 2024 period, like culture just got really gross.
Really messy.
It got really gross. Like music got kind of gross. Like everything was so low frequency. Everything was just like,
Honestly,
it felt like
satanic.
Satanic. Feel like you're rolling around in trash.
Yeah.
Like you just feel like you're like, ugh. Like there's
And
just
then
no benefit.
one good movie that comes out of that, it's like, wow, this is a breakthrough. But the bar has been set so low because every other piece of content and piece of body of artwork is so horrible,
Right.
that stands out.
Right.
Like say Barbie, for example. Like Barbie,
I didn't even like
was
Barbie.
a revolution last summer. And it was like it made the most money out of every other movie at the box office that year. And that was because
Everything else was
so mid
Yeah.
that stood out because
Yeah.
it was an original piece
Right.
of screenplay. It was
Right.
original writing.
Right.
So yeah, originality, like we respond to that.
Right.
And I think that people should see examples of that and therefore be motivated to make original art and original, high quality effort-filled work. But yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of mess across the board the past 5 years.
It's just like, I don't want to do it. I don't want my soul. I don't want to put my soul there. Like, I just, again, returning to the soul, returning to, and I think third places are a great place to like meet people that A, work there, or B, that are like regulars. So we want to like also what's going to be in is like becoming a regular somewhere, having roots, investing in a specific community, and not being a floater, not having like a quote unquote like home, being a digital nomad. I think being a digital nomad is going to be out.
I agree.
So
totally agree.
I think people are looking for that like stability.
And being a regular at a place doesn't mean that you can't go to other places too. It just might mean that maybe one or a couple out of all these ones that you're trying are ones that you want to go back to and make friends with the people who work there. And I think that those are the places where you can tell from the staff whether or not they love where they work.
Right.
And
if they hang out there after hours.
Like, if the people actually ask you what your name is and remember your name if you come back a couple times. I love going back to coffee shops where they actually remember my name or say, "Oh, it's so good to see you again." Like little things like that go such a long way.
Right. And I always love asking, and especially if I don't have something specific that I want to order, like I love asking the question, like, what do you recommend? Or I'll be like, between these two things, what do you recommend?
Yeah,
or is there something off menu?
Like, give me the pitch.
Like that you want to do? Because then you can like start up a conversation. You can tell, okay, is someone actually passionate about that? And it's fine if you are. It's fine if you have a job and you're not passionate about it. Like that's totally fine. Like I get, you can do something just for money. Like that's totally fine. Maybe you're just working at like a coffee shop and your passion is to like write or do something else. Like that's fine.
Yeah, it's like your side gig.
But it's like, if it is your passion, then maybe like we might have a shared passion and we can have a conversation about that. And then next time you go, like I'll remember your name, maybe you remember my name, and like that we can like build on that. Mm-hmm. And I like having my places where like I can do that and like have that conversation. I know like the people to like go to for that. And
I agree.
Today I went to this really great third place, which I was talking to my dad, and apparently it's been around since like the 90s, but it had a different ownership and vibe. But it was in this old fashioned like cottage, kind of in the Roosevelt district, which is like near downtown. And it hit like all of the things that Jordan and I have been looking for in a third place. Like It had during the day, it's coffee shop and like breakfast burrito mimosa focused. And it's this house. It's this house that has this gorgeous outside area for patio. It has multiple rooms with like lounge chairs, lots of plants, lots of great art. And everyone was like kind of like standing up and like chatting, and like I made friends with people.
It's just got life.
It just has like
soul, character, color.
Yeah.
Yeah. The plants, they bring life into a space. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really excited. I think
the music was great.
We have a plan come 2025 of a more, frequent and predictable recording schedule and work schedule for the podcast. And one of the things we want to integrate is working at a third space. At least once a month, if not twice a month. Mm-hmm. And either carouseling around these or choosing one that we're going to keep going back to. And yeah, just kind of imbue that with more value to us.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's also something cool about working on one project at one of those third spaces.
Because then you can
kind
like
of tied together.
Right. And they like associate.
And then you associate this outing or this place, this location that you went to work on that one thing.
I've done that.
Yeah.
When I was in Houston, I was studying for my real estate exam on the weekends. And so at the beginning, I would like go to every coffee shop there until I found one that I liked. And then I found one that I liked. And then I like went there. And now if I haven't been there, obviously, since that time in my life. But if I were to go back, I would think about studying for the test and like passing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like every time I go to Moxie, I think about this article that I wrote and published for Evie, because I would like go there for so that's a good point. Like
I know, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's like be intentional about the places that you choose and what you want to work on there, because you'll remember it that way and they'll kind of forever be tied there.
It's also so much better when you tell the story of like when you worked on that thing to like tie in like a physical place as opposed to like I worked on this in my bed.
Yeah. And I think now that we're in this digital era where most of the things people would work on at a coffee shop would require a computer, if I were an owner of a coffee shop or of a place like that, I would be so enthralled to hear of a customer coming back and later saying, like, I published this after I worked on this here.
Right.
And that was because of your space and the ambiance that your space created for me that I was able to complete this. Like, that is such a rewarding full circle moment to get. And I'm sure some places get that all the time, but we should make that more of a trend.
Yeah. Like,
right?
This is what it meant to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I liked about this place too is that I didn't see a lot of people on screens. Like, I get that you go to a coffee shop and you're working on a screen, but there's something so attractive about, especially if you see like a guy that's like working on something else. Like, I've seen like a guy like writing in a notebook.
Using their weekend for that.
Or like, I've seen a guy like reading like an interesting book, or I'll see people like, I've seen like 3 guys having their Bibles out and notating it, like just like things that are like wholesome, that I'm like, oh, you're not here just like on a computer screen. And I go to coffee shops on my computer screen because I work on my computer, so I get it. But
yeah,
I think if I don't know, I just think that there's something so nice about once in a while going there and doing something that's either like you're there to interact with people, or you're there to like do something that someone can come up to you and be like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah,
that's a beautiful thing, or like, what are you working on?
I know,
like, tell me about it, you know?
No, you're so right. I love seeing, I mean, anyone, any age, especially guys around our age, being so focused on something, like seeing them in like a flow state. I'm like, whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but it ties into that. Think back to the Renaissance, where there were art stands, individual artists, groups out in the streets, right? Just showcasing their art, or maybe they were doing it live. But that was a thing during that period of time. And unless you go to a farmer's market or you go to an art festival, which aren't all that frequent, you know, it's not like on a day-to-day basis you're passing through a street like that where you see all the time. But that's what the Renaissance period was. It was just this omnipresent, always you would see people and what they were working on in that art focus. And I think that that's kind of what we get when you go to a coffee shop. It's like the closest thing that we have to an everyday thing where you can go and you're around other people and you're all working on something that you're passionate about.
Right.
Or maybe you're not passionate about it and you're just doing work, but
right.
Yeah, I was just trying to come up with like an historical example to compare.
Yeah, no, that's a great example.
Like to think about why does it feel more motivating to work at a coffee shop when you're around other people?
Yeah,
look focused.
Right, because it's like then you're like game on.
Yeah, you're like everyone else is doing it. Why not I?
Yeah, level up.
Yeah.
Level up, man.
So imagine if we had it back to the Renaissance where it was just
everywhere.
Like everyone out in the streets, out in nature, showcasing what they're working
there's
on.
There's also something about being inspired about the place that you're in, like we were just talking about. And like during the Renaissance, the art and the architecture, like everything was so inspiring and beautiful. And like it was ordered towards goodness and beauty and truth and like a higher power and God and all that. And I feel like right now, so much of our like art that's been so fast paced, that's been so like minimalistic, so copy paste, is just not properly ordered.
Yeah.
And when something's not properly ordered, it's just not gonna feed the soul.
Yes.
Like a properly ordered art or something like that will feel.
I agree. And now we have AI generating art, and that's muddling it even more.
Oh gosh, that's like
it's not art.
It's hard because it's weird because you look at that stuff and I would say, yeah, it's not art. It's a design. It's design. Like you're designing something.
It's a rendering, but it's not an original. It's coded. It's creating that rendering based off of patterns that it's coded to recognize.
Yeah.
So it's an algorithmic. Yeah, it's not. And that's why no real AI piece of art you see is that memorable, because the brain has seen it. None of that you're seeing is that new,
right?
Original,
right?
Yeah,
right. Interesting.
Okay, we're on so many tangents right now. So sorry, but
okay,
let's go back to our.
We'll go back to our list. Okay, high frequency, high class, high value, high end.
Out, low frequency.
Right. So
low class, low end.
what's an example of like high frequency music, high frequency clothes? Like what does it mean to you?
That's a really good question. I'm thinking for a sec. I think from a material standpoint, a really unsynthetic material, like the rawest version of something,
Cotton,
makes it high
linen.
frequency. Like
Yeah.
if you were to say a piece of clothing that was solely 100% cotton
Right.
versus a synthetic material, like the 100% authentic, untouched, untampered
Yeah.
with material is going to be higher frequency.
Right.
Same with lights, high frequency lights that are kind of the most raw material form that create that light versus an ultra electronic, LED type of light that just doesn't look natural.
Yeah.
So those are two examples that we talked about at the beginning of this, but I'm trying to think of other ones.
Music there's high frequency, low frequency music.
Yeah, live music where you see the people
Like the acoustics.
playing their instruments,
Yeah.
you see their fingers moving, the slight nuances with a live performance. I mean, I heard a quote the other day that said, it was from a music composer like who scores movies, and she was saying that the reason why she hates listening to recorded music or perfectly produced music that say comes out of Hollywood is because it just doesn't have those nuances. It's too perfect.
Interesting.
It's too perfect to the point where the brain, it's hard to wrap your head around how perfect, like it's a perfect note with every note in the song.
That's what
with
people
every
say about
instrument.
too much like plastic surgery. Oh, we didn't put plastic surgery, filler,
Okay.
Botox, all that stuff. If the perfection, like people are attracted to your slight imperfections. Like you want things to be
Correct.
You want things to be symmetrical, but you don't want things to be so perfect that
It looks copy paste.
It looks copy paste, and
don't remember
everyone's
copy
faces
paste.
are getting copy paste, and also it's like messing up aging. Like I want to age gracefully. I will maintain myself. I will work out. I will be like a hot wife. Like I promise. I've already had a child, so like I have the receipts.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm not like a model, obviously, but I'm like
No,
I take care of myself.
What defines like a 10 out of 10 face?
But it's like I can't compete with this stuff, Like I can't. And I have forehead wrinkles, and I'm not afraid of them. But I don't want to put
You're
Botox.
expressive with your face, as
Right.
am I. I have full blown crow's feet, and I've learned to try to embrace them.
Right.
And yeah, it's
But
human.
but it's hard when you want to age gracefully, and that means that you still want to be healthy and look the best and invest in your style and like apply natural makeup and like keep your hair well kept, all these things. Like you want to be well groomed, but you don't want to be fake. But if everyone else is aging in a fake way, then you're gonna look
You're going to stand out
weird
even more.
and you're gonna stand out more. And
Yeah.
it's like, can we just all the women like get together and make a pact to not do any of this stuff, because then we can all be on the same playing field. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
I think we could do a whole other episode on the cons of plastic surgery and how many cans of worms that opens.
Like preventative Botox. What is that? I don't know what that is.
I think it means it slightly fills the lines so that you're not getting into the muscle too much, and then I think it just slightly blurs the lines. It's not.
Okay.
It helps them not get deeper earlier.
Over time.
So it does buy you time. But the problem with a lot of these materials is they're synthetic, and I don't think that we really know what's in them.
Low
And
frequency.
From some of the research that I've been reading recently is it's a type of material that actually moves around in your cells and in your face and can get into the brain.
Oh,
Because
whoa.
we forget that our cells reproduce. Like all of our cells are moving all the time. And so
Oh, so like your cheek cell could go to your brain cells.
people are injecting these injectables thinking that those cells on your face, that's it for the rest of your life. And no, it's getting absorbed by other parts of the body. And another example of this is I got my nails done last year from this lady at the village. It was the Gainey Village.
Okay.
And she had really big lips, and I didn't even ask her. Like, I'm not the type of person to like ask questions like that.
Oh,
like,
I remember this.
Unless they come out first and tell me. But it was almost like she could like read my mind, because she was like, I have to tell you what happened to me a couple months ago. And it was probably the worst story, one of the worst botched horror stories of plastic surgery I've ever heard. And it was, she got black market lip filler and her body rejected it. And so she had this massive allergic reaction around the entire lower half of her face, and had to get surgery to get this infected tissue off of her face. And then the worst part about it was the type of injectable synthetic that they used had silicone in it. And it was a type of silicone that can't be removed. So it basically morphs with your cells and your tissues. And so she couldn't get it removed. And so now I guess she was on this drug to be constantly fighting the infection or the possibility of more infection. Just, it was horrible. So yeah, and the pictures she showed me were insane. But
Like the before and after.
so like, don't get black market lip filler.
Oh my gosh.
But that's probably happening with even regular filler in places that do filler too, even if it's not quote unquote.
Well, I mean, all
black
it takes is
market.
you get the wrong box. You get the wrong.
Yes.
Are you reading the inserts?
Yeah, this is coming from China, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if it was a bad batch from that day at the factory?
There's a little fentanyl that got in there. I don't know.
Yeah, like fentanyl. Maybe like a needle got into it. So
Yeah.
crazy. But you're right. Like, and there's a reason why outside of these
I'm just
potential
processing.
harmful effects, there's a reason why you look at a perfect plastic surgery face and it doesn't look attractive.
Something's weird about it.
It's not
Like Zac
natural.
Efron, his recent
Yeah.
surgery stuff. It looked weird. I don't
He
know what
looks
movie he
like-
was in. But I didn't watch the
he
movie, but like
looks-
I was like, I can't watch the movie because I can't look at you.
Same, because he looks completely different.
Like he looks like a Barbie doll, or I don't know how to describe it. It's like
he looks more sculpted, but he was way more attractive before that when he had his
Way.
raw face.
a rawness.
I completely agree.
Like be.
He looks like handsome
Yeah.
Squidward now.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Next one.
Wait. High frequency. Final thing.
Okay.
Languages. High frequency
Ooh.
languages, low frequency language. So Latin is considered the highest frequency language. I don't know if you know this.
I didn't.
And it also has strong exorcism powers. So like anything, like if you were to perform an exorcism, a lot of that like a lot of the verbiage would be in Latin, because Latin has a very high frequency, high power. Like if you like praying the rosary in Latin is going to have more spiritual protection than just like English. And so
Is that because Latin is the base language to so many other languages that it's kind of the
like the
returning to-
original,
yeah.
the
Like
original
anything
root.
OG, authentic, untouched,
Right. And
is high frequency.
and not to get too like theological whatever, but the reason why humans are considered like the peak of creation, and why they're the entity that spirits want to like control, like bad spirits, it's because you have the ability to speak. Like speak words. And if you go back to like creation, it all starts with like I don't know. I'm not very good at the Bible, but like the word was spoken.
I'm not good at the Bible.
But like the word was spoken, and then stuff became into existence through like the word, and that is to be taken very like if you think about the power of your voice, and like that's why freedom of speech
Yes.
is such an important thing, and it's such a monumental idea.
I agree.
All this stuff, and it's
even-
because your words only humans have words. So an angel, a fallen angel, a dark spirit, something from another dimension, they don't have that ability. So that's why they want to use you as a vessel. Sorry, I'm getting like
Interesting.
way into like dark, weird stuff, but like yes. And so Latin all this
was the
stuff.
first
It's a
format
combat
of words.
It's one of the oldest languages, and you're like, it's important to be precise with your language, with your words, and so through translations you can lose the preciseness of language too. And Latin, like, it used to be taught in school, like it used to be, the Latin rite of the mass used to be like, people would go, that used to be the original form of the mass until Vatican II. So it is interesting. Like, and if you ever listen to Latin, like Latin music, Gregorian chant, like listen to like someone speaking the Latin rosary,
it's like you have a nostalgia for it, even though
you know nothing.
That wasn't of your time, or you're not of that time.
No.
It's so cool.
And it brings you so much like peace.
The frequency is that high that you are able to have an emotional, physical tie experience, even though it's not your language. It wasn't you're not of the same time of it.
Right.
Yeah. There's a reason for that.
Right. And I would love to have like a scholar on about languages, because I don't fully understand it. I just know it at a very baseline level.
Yeah. And now we have Gen Z slang where we say like skibbity toilet and like riz and all of this stuff. It's like, where are we going?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do think that this episode is a bit of a hodgepodge of all of these different symbols and these terms that we're just trying to bring more to the forefront, because at least for me in my brain, I've kind of always thought this, like I kind of think in a combination of symbols.
Okay.
Like it helps me remember things to attribute like a symbol or a term to a complex concept or concept thought.
Okay.
Like stream of thought.
Okay.
And then same with, and which is why I really resonated with your exercise of setting a word for the year, because that really does help me like boil things down. So even when it comes to just small conversation topics like these, setting one word or phrase to help me remember the core of what that conversation bit was, really helps me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what is the thing you're coming back to? Like, what's the major theme? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the theme? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, back to the list. We already talked about cooking at home versus eating out, so I don't know if we need to rehash that one. We talked about maximism. We talked about color. Anything else you want to add to those three?
Nope.
Okay. Coffee shop speakeasy. We kind of talked about coffee shop.
Versus
What was the versus?
dating apps? No. Clubs.
Oh,
Versus
clubs.
clubs and bars.
We talked about that.
So I think that clubs and bars are getting a little bit conjoined right now. I mean, I see DJs at bars all the time.
So the music isn't as good. Again, the copy paste.
Yeah, and speakeasies I think are still a safer space, because sometimes they'll have live music performers and it'll be a little bit chiller. It's
jazz,
not blaring music.
Yeah,
it reminds me of more traditional nightlife outing
types
of spaces.
Right.
And then coffee shops have the same.
Right. And I think a lot of coffee shops, and wine bars.
Yeah.
Wine bars. I think that you're seeing, especially on the West Coast, a resurgence of like day socializing. Mm-hmm. Like, let's meet, like that concert in Venice outside on the lawn that we go to with Emma.
Penmar?
Like that's an example of something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot, like at this place, Central Records, that we've gone to, they do only vinyl DJing pretty much. Mm-hmm. And it's like a wine bar at night. And so it's like,
and the way they have it decorated is it's super neon, colorful.
Yeah.
It's just vibrant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they really lean into that. And everyone who works there seems like they really love working there.
Right. And
so it's a holistic thing. And I would
Yeah.
advise people to be more attentive and observant of the little details like that. Because if you don't actively try to become more observant, then you're going to stay in this autopilot where in any new restaurant you try or any new place you go to, you're just kind of like looking at like the fundamentals or like, the main boxes, whether they're checked or not. And you're not looking at those extra details that actually really have an impact on your overall experience and how you remember that place.
Right. And it also helps because then if you're being more thoughtful about like going to maybe one of these places versus like a club or like a sports bar-y thing, mm-hmm. like at a club, it's like, okay, what if you're going there to like meet new friends or meet like a guy or a future husband, even boyfriend, whatever. It's like already you're kind of coming in at a disadvantage because you don't have anything in common. You're not guaranteed to have something in common with that person besides that you guys like to drink alcohol. And a lot of people like to drink alcohol. And maybe you don't even like to drink alcohol as much as they like to drink alcohol or vice versa. So I feel
that's what bars become, is like who can just drink more.
Right.
Because it's the only commonality in that moment.
Right. Versus if you're going somewhere that's maybe slightly more curated, it's not like you're going to, I don't know. It's not like you're going to like something so specific, right? But it's something that's still a little bit more curated, that you're going to meet someone there that probably has something in common with you that relates to some larger value system that you guys might both share. So I feel like you have an easier shot of like finding someone.
Yeah, no,
right?
and I love coffee shops because I know that no one else that's there is drunk,
right,
and inebriated and out of their mind, or, you know, caffeinated is a very different type of thing, but at least you know that they're there.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to judge at a bar.
Yeah, and even like something more like chill, like a wine bar or like a cocktail lounge. It's like, okay, that person is there because maybe they have like a palate for wine, or they have a palate for like a good cocktail, and they're there to like have one or two drinks.
Yeah.
And they're there for
and
something
they're
else.
Be very present there with those drinks and be intentional and like enjoy it.
Right.
Enjoy the ambiance,
right.
not be in a rush.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just any space that we can integrate that intentionality, I think is.
Right. And I mean, obviously run clubs are a big thing. I'm not one for that. I have my reasons.
Was that an N you put?
No, I'm associating that with like coffee shop and speakeasy.
Okay, got it.
Because like that's something people might like more of the athletic option to meet people. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Which kind of ties us into meet cutes.
Yes, it does.
Meet cutes?
Yeah, so meet cutes are in for 2025 and dating apps are out.
We're out.
I have many qualms with dating apps. I know I'm not alone with that. It's tough out there.
It do be tough.
But I genuinely think a direct remedy to dating apps is reviving meet cutes in the real world.
Meet cutes, yeah.
Yeah. For people who don't know what that term is, it basically is just meeting a person, like a stranger, out in likely a third space or a public space. Yeah. Could be at a grocery store or car wash or anything. And you just meet. And you have a mini conversation, and then you see where it goes. But it doesn't need to be a guy asking a girl out as the first thing he says to her.
No.
It truly is just as simple as, hi.
Yeah.
Like, hi.
Or what are you drinking? Like, oh my gosh, that drink looks so good. What
How's
is that?
Your day?
Yeah.
There's so many different ways
Smile.
that you can introduce that. And because of the phones and AirPods, I'm so annoyed with AirPods.
Take the
Talk
AirPods about low out. Frequency.
Smile at people.
Wired headphones are in.
We should add that to our list.
That's a great one.
No, headphones are in, AirPods are out because they're filled with EMFs and they fry your brain.
If I see a guy with wired headphones in and he has a great outfit and he's at a third space, glasses could be a plus. I don't know. I just also adding to this list, to the meet cutes, looking presentable when you go out in public versus like sweatpants. That's later on the list, but that kind of ties into this. Oh my gosh,
imagine if you had an amazing, legendary meet cute and you didn't look good.
You're not going to want to do the meet cute.
You're not going to want a meet cute again. But when you look good, you almost like, you're craving a meet cute.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, bring it on. Like, I will talk to anyone. Like, anyone can approach me and I will be the happiest, most present, engaging person that they could possibly talk to right now.
Right. And that doesn't mean like you have to go out with like a full face of makeup and your hair done. But what it means is like put a little, like wear your personal style, like dress up a little bit. And that's another thing is I love, like I've always been drawn, my personal brand is like business casual. Like I love a good, like
you love a good blazer.
I love a good blazer. I love a good trench coat. Obviously I live in the desert, so that's not really like the aesthetic, although in winter it can be.
Yeah.
But for so long I just didn't wear what I actually wanted to wear because that wasn't like what other people wore, and I like conformed to what other people were wearing to some extent. And you just don't feel as good. Like when you're dressing like you just feel so much
doesn't feel like you.
better.
Yeah.
And I also think perfect one hairstyle if you're a girl like perfect one hairstyle that's like you can just throw your hair up.
Yep.
That's like takes
You.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
That you don't have to like do a full face of makeup and a full hair thing every
you know how
day.
people say that of the trifecta outfit, makeup, or outfit, face, hair.
Yeah.
Do you believe that you have to have 2 out of the 3 at all times? Because people say that that's a.
I think to
that's a
feel
hack.
good, yeah.
To feel good, you should
Yeah.
have at least.
You
Yeah.
do.
I agree.
Yeah.
When I have one of the 3, I don't feel as good.
Right.
But ideally, let's shoot for 3 of 3.
3 of 3.
Skin looks good. Even if you don't have makeup on, just like, you know,
I mean,
it's clean. It's not.
breaking out.
Yeah, you're not freaking out. Maybe you have like some like stuff on your lips so your lips don't look chapped.
You're wearing a little bit of like jewelry.
Little jewelry. Your hair isn't like ratty or whatever. And then a little outfit. It doesn't need to be a full like gown situation.
No.
Just, like,
No, just something that's like
I tried.
I tried. I didn't roll out of bed in a t-shirt and sweats.
Yeah.
Unless that's unless that's you and you like there are girls that like that is their aesthetic and they rock that.
Yeah.
And they bring that individuality and maybe it's like a high quality t-shirt or something like it's a vintage whatever. Yeah. But I'm talking about like you bought this from Amazon. It's black. It has no personality. Like you sleep in it.
It's
you
copy
sleep
paste.
in it. Copy paste. Yeah.
Work from home, I think, has made that really hard too because it's now so much more habitual to just not try.
Right.
Because you don't have to.
Yeah, not leave your house.
Especially not wearing pants. Like actually, so I work from home and I always. Well, I mean, like I'm a hybrid type of person. I dabble in both, but yeah, there are days where I work from home and I take calls and I am on video and I always have my top half presentable. Okay. But then I'll take it up a notch. There are some days where I actually wear real pants.
Okay. Like you're not wearing shorts or
yeah, no, PJ. Like I'll wear like a full fit, even though most people who do that only go like top up and then have sweatpants on.
Yeah, dropping Lido off at school has helped me because even though I do work remote or like I do work at a lot of coffee shops and stuff.
I work from home.
But like, because I have to drop them off at school, I feel like I have to look good for the school.
Yes.
Like I have to look like I have it together.
Mm-hmm.
But have you had any success dating, meet cutes? Do you have any ideas for future success? To people?
I've had a couple meet cutes.
Yeah, okay.
I for sure have had some meet cutes. I've been asked out from a meet cute. A couple times.
Well, we had a meet cute.
I want them to be
here.
more prevalent.
We had a meet cute here in your apartment.
Yeah, I've had meet cutes from neighbors.
And we encouraged them.
I've had meet cutes on the golf course.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to like I just want more of it, and I want more people to experience that because I know that there are people who haven't had that.
And then this is my recommendation for girls because I feel like this is another thing we'll talk about is like masculine versus feminine and like the recorrection of that because I think we are going through a recorrection of that because a lot of people are like getting off birth control and there's a lot of things and we'll dive into that. But I think right now we're kind of still in this transitional period and because of like the Me Too movement and just men not being as masculine both from like a behavioral like societal reasoning and from a like actual physiological like if you look at the chart like like testosterone is dropping.
Testosterone is plummeting.
So
is our birth rate on both sides.
Right.
Or our fertility on both sides.
Right.
So testosterone in men is directly linked to their fertility.
And their sperm mobility and count and all that stuff. Which is why I don't know. I just think like pregnancies are just so cool and like such a miracle, even more so because of like
miracle period.
How many people do IVF now? And like that's like I think it's like 1 in 4, 1 in 3 couples. This is my advice for women to approach guys in still a feminine way. That's not like that is also it does require some confidence, but it's not like the hardest thing either. And this has worked for me. Okay. I've only done it once, but it worked that time. So I don't have a good percentage.
Hey,
but
it worked.
It worked. So, and I've heard it from friends that it's worked for them too. So you just go up to a guy and again, you need to be presentable. You need to be feeling good. Get 2 out of the 3,
yeah.
you know, but you feel good.
Radiate
your energy. And you just go up and you say like, hey, I don't know if you're single or not, but if you are, I just want to let you know I think you're really cute, and I would love to give you my number if you would like it. Lets them be in control.
Puts it in their court,
but it's very direct. It's very whatever. And that's if like you kind of have to move quickly because maybe like you're not in an environment where you're sitting down at a coffee shop. Like maybe like you're leaving a grocery store. It's something more chaotic. Like that would be a great time to use that. Okay, if you're more like they're going to be there for a while, you're going to be there for a while. I think going up and being like, "Hey, like what? Like that drink looks really good. Like what is that?" I think that could be a little bit more soft and not as direct.
Yes.
But I think either one of those things would be good.
A direct compliment to say something they're wearing that's definitely stronger.
Right.
Like especially if you compliment something of their appearance. But saying like, I think you're cute, I think that is still softer.
Right.
It's not like you're like, oh, I love like your outfit, or I love like this or that.
Right.
But, yeah, it still leaves it in their court so that they can have that masculine experience of asking you out or taking the next step.
Right. You're giving them an out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up to them.
Yeah.
And men need to feel autonomous, that they have agency over their decisions and how to proceed in a situation like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this all again ties back to the conversation of we don't have a universal symbol of dropping the handkerchief nowadays, which that was traditionally a very common thing that women did, and actually got to the point where men would carry handkerchiefs and that's why like a lot of suits have that in there, is because when women cry, as women tend to be more emotional and a little bit more heartfelt sometimes,
as we should be,
men would have the handkerchief to be able to give it to women. But yeah, we don't have that symbol anymore. So because we don't have that, we have to take these extra steps like that. We're
to show we're interested.
Women have to show that they're approachable.
Right.
And sometimes it has to get to the point where you're verbally telling them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just what it is. I wish it weren't at that place. I'd really like to not have to do that. I think I could do something like that if I see another guy that, I'd want to go up to like that, like what you did. It hasn't happened in a little bit, but yeah, ideally I'd love for a guy to come up to me too. So that's not off the table. Like,
yeah, if you're a guy listening, which we do have a lot of guy listeners, like don't be afraid to also approach a woman in a way that's not like, if you're worried about how I'm going to come off as like direct or I don't want to get rejected, you can do this in reverse in a way that you aren't going to get rejected either, or it's not like a super visceral rejection, because we're all scared of rejection. But I think just compliment, like literally if a cute guy turned, like if we're both ordering like a coffee or a drink somewhere and a guy like turned around and was like, oh my gosh, like I love your, I don't know, something about me or something about something that I'm doing. Like what if I have wired headphones on and like, oh my gosh, like I love people that wear wired headphones. I don't know, just
or maybe what if they saw something on your computer at a coffee shop that you're working on that was really cool, and they were just like, hey, like you look so focused. What are you working on?
Right.
Like, that's so cool, and that actually can tell a lot about you.
Right.
As an intro to that person.
Right.
And it isn't invasive, especially if it's at a third space where somehow you both found this third space and you made it there together. Like there's kind of already a little bit that's kind of figured out, like by the fact that you're both there and you like that.
Right. And it's like, I think I read this stat that's like if we go at the trajectory we're going, it's like 1 in 4 people will end up alone. So it's like,
oh my God.
But because no one's approaching anyone and we're all resulting to online dating. And I also think being online,
it's just horrible. I don't like it.
I have never been able to get it out of the group. Like my problem with online dating is like, how do people get it out of the group chat? Like, how do they get it out of the chat and like actually go do something? Like, I can't do it.
Well, it requires someone to first ask the other person out, and then probably
I don't follow through.
Numbers.
I don't even like.
I know.
I'll exchange a number and then I'll be like, I can't. Like they're texting me like I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I got booted from Hinge because I had too many unreplied message conversation.
How does that happen?
Like my account is frozen because I had too many.
How do you unfreeze it?
I either have to reply to all of them or I don't know.
That
maybe.
seems like jail.
And there was like over 350, like I think maybe 400.
I know. I got logged out of my account and I don't remember my login. I'm like, this is a sign.
Yes, right? Same for me. That was a sign. And
I know.
And that happened a while ago. So
I've been on one Hinge date and it was a while ago. And it was someone that I like already kind of knew. So I don't even, like, it was someone that went to our like high school network. And so I wasn't like friends or knew them in high school, but like I knew of him.
Yeah.
Probably knew of me. I think he did. I think he started the conversation. But I deleted Hinge when someone said, they told me that they wish that I was a widower.
Widower.
What is widower? Or
Yeah, they wish
a widow. I was a widow.
A widower.
Yeah.
It's a widower.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
if
what
you're
they,
if you're the spouse who was alive and you lost if you lost your spouse, then you're the widower.
okay, so they wish that I was that as opposed to being a single mom because I had a child out of wedlock.
So men can't stand the thought of
This was just one man. I've had other, so, like other guys don't care, but this
Yeah.
particular guy,
that is so
and
frustrating.
he wrote me a long paragraph for like the intro, and I
And then wasn't he asking for photos of you or something?
no,
There's
no,
something about a mini skirt.
oh, that was a different.
That was a different one. Okay.
That was
Someone was asking like for photos of you in a mini skirt.
that was all happening in the same week, and so that was when I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm done. And I've had so much more success with the meet cutes, way more success.
Same here.
I haven't found like my person, but I feel like in terms of just like the quality of guys that I've met and the dating and the dates I've been on and just the mutual like shared interests and shared values, like this last year I've had great success. Like I'm not dating someone, like I don't have a boyfriend right now, but in terms of just like how was my dating experience this year, I feel like it was one of my best years.
Yeah,
like
I think so too.
just
High five for that.
Yeah.
And I think for me as well. Like
Yeah.
all of them were really organic from either meet cutes or, referrals and like friend referrals
Yes.
or like, connecting me with people. And all of those have been surrounding some sort of commonality that we already kind of knew was there.
Right.
And so
Right.
yeah, I want more of that for 2025. And hopefully I'll continue to get better and it'll chisel its way out on
Yeah.
its own.
Do you think that people are also that part of the problem with dating too is that people think there's always going to be something better out there, so no one wants to just like settle, especially like in a big city like New York or LA where there's so many like attractive people, and we kind of felt like that in Chapman too a little bit. Like there were so many attractive people in one place.
Yeah. I relate to that.
Yeah.
I've been stuck in that before where I've met a pretty solid guy that does check some boxes, but yeah, it doesn't check all of mine. And I don't know. That's something that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
Like, to really figure out what my deal breakers are versus what are these more outer ring, maneuverable non-deal breakers that maybe I still will take into consideration, but aren't deal breakers. I haven't necessarily figured out I know what my top like 5 to 10 deal breakers are in terms of a person's character and their values and, their vision for their life. But there's like a spectrum of levels of deal breakers.
Right.
There's also deal breakers that are nice to haves, ones that you really want to have that aren't necessarily
Like a deal break.
like, you know what I mean?
Like
There's
it's
just
an
such a
nice
spectrum.
additive.
Exactly.
And then there's that element of just like it's your person or not, and that's not something that's like quantifiable. It's just like a gut feeling you have on top of all the other things, right?
Yeah. Okay, here's a good question. Sorry. I'm excited because I don't think we've ever talked about this.
Oh gosh, I'm so
Okay,
excited.
do you think chemistry comes out of alignment with the boxes, Or do you think that chemistry is a completely separate box on its own?
No, I think
that
it's
you
separate.
either have it checked or not.
I think it's
I
separate.
think it's separate. I think it's separate too.
I think it's so separate. I think.
But do you think that that chemistry is tied into like any commonality, or is it truly just like an aura that we don't even have quantifiable?
I think chemistry can be on a spectrum, and I've had chemistry with people that like it is more value based, plus there's like a physical attraction, and so it's like a stronger chemistry. But then their aura was off.
Yes.
But like
There's an aura. There's like an
and
aura
then I've
subcategory of chemistry.
And then I think that there's a chemistry that's aura centered, and there's those offshoots. And then I think there could be a chemistry where all three things are like equal.
We need to define these different types of chemistry because they do all stand on their own.
But they're all different.
Yeah.
And I think that a marriage could work in any of those scenarios because I've seen it. Because at the end of the day, a strong marriage is like choosing to love that person every single day. Like it's a choice because there's going to be moments where you don't feel like it.
Yes.
However, I think it depends on the person and the stage of life that they're in, and also like what's the age gap of the relationship. Like I think that if you have a wider age gap, that aura connection, that like higher aura chemistry is going to be less.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I think if you are like similar age, if you fell in love when you were younger, that aura connection is going to be stronger.
That is so true because if you think about it, if you're from a different generation, you grew up with totally different content. Like your chemical makeup of the things in culture that you've been exposed to are totally different than the other person.
Right.
Yeah. And that does have an effect on our chemistry because it affects your humor. Like the things going on at that age for you influences your humor, what you find funny, the memories that you have. What's
cool, what's not cool, what's trendy, what's not like all
your social skills,
all that stuff, all the unspoken things.
That is true. But I will say it is possible to have that chemistry or that attraction to a person's aura even if they're not of the same age, which is something that I feel like I have somewhat experienced. And that I don't know. I just think that, I do agree with you that chemistry is a separate island that is not directly tied to how many things you have in common or how many values you're aligned with.
I guess what I'm saying is I think there's different types of chemistry.
Okay.
So I think that there's a chemistry that's like almost all aura. And then I think there's a chemistry that's mainly a mixture of like attraction, like are you physically attracted to each other and shared values and interests, but like you still have like a chemistry. And then I think there's something in between where it's maybe like 50% or a 50% like shared interests. So I think that there's like three different types of chemistry.
Okay.
And it's like, which lane do you want to choose? Like, which one do you want?
How about all of them?
That's what I'm saying. The middle one is both.
The middle one's
the both. Middle one would be both.
Okay, I want the middle one then.
Yeah.
I think that I've determined is a deal breaker for me.
Okay.
Is I have to feel the chemistry.
Yes, you don't want to settle.
And no matter how many boxes someone checks that are of the other deal breakers of mine, I can't override the chemistry box not being checked by those other ones being checked.
Can I say something that like is kind of controversial? Okay.
Yes.
So
Please.
I think too, okay, with the like going off of like, okay, there's other like people always think, oh, there's another option. Have you ever heard of the 90-10 rule?
Maybe.
Okay. The 90%, 10% rule is that
you have 90% of the
let's say you have
want.
90% of the things that you want and you're in the relationship. Well, over time, as the relationship goes, especially the younger you are, the less experience, less relationships you've been in, you're going to start focusing on that 10% that other person doesn't have. And no one's going to have 100% of what you want. That's just not realistic.
No.
But if you start hyper focusing on that 10% and then you start losing with that person the 90% of like the aura, the things that you're interested in, whatever, and you start like focusing on that 10% of differences and you like blow that out of proportion and you break up, and then that manifests even more because you're not with that person. So you're like more focused on like the negative things.
Yeah.
Then you're going to go to your next relationship trying to find someone that only is that 10%. And you're going to like bounce into that relationship with that person quickly because you're going to be like, oh,
You're like, he didn't have this.
Right.
This guy does.
Correct.
But then you're missing out on all the 90%.
Correct. And then you might be in that thing for like maybe a few months. And then you're going to be like, oh, I miscalculated.
I have been in this.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
I have experienced this.
It's very common.
This is
very
huge
common
for me to actually have a word or a term that explains that phenomenon.
It's 90-10.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've totally had that.
Yeah. So avoid the 90-10 out there. Like try to be grounded, try to be centered. And yeah, because you don't want to people are so irreplaceable. People are irreplaceable. Okay, there are people that the people that are irreplaceable are irreplaceable. And what I mean by that is the friends that you have that are so unique and so authentically them, and you vibe with them because you guys both are just authentically each other. Like that is irreplaceable. So do not discard that.
Correct.
Do not discard that.
Yeah, in the pursuit of a better, cooler friendship or
Right.
A next best thing.
Right.
Yeah. I know that doesn't just go for relationships. That's friendships. That's coworkers.
Everything.
That's family. Not really family because family's family, but yeah, you have to work at all of these relationships and yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you for telling me the 90-10. That was really interesting. I love the chemistry conversation. That it kind of messes up my brain a little bit.
Okay.
Because it is an enigma. I do think that, and maybe it'd be cool to have someone on that like studies the science of like dating chemistry and the chemistry between individuals. Because you feel chemistry with friends.
Yeah.
For whatever
it's not.
reason.
It doesn't have to be like a sexual thing either. It can be just like a presence.
Like you feel like you've known each other forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a soul. It's like your souls are tied in a weird way. Like your souls. It's like not a physical.
Get each other.
You just it's like you can sit. I think the test is like, can you sit in silence with this person?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's a huge test in a relationship. Like how well can you guys both sit in silence?
There's no showing off of anything.
No, you're just like super comfortable.
Your most authentic self.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think too. It's like don't hide your authentic self in order to like attract someone too. Like that's not a good idea.
Oh yeah, it's just gonna harm you in the long run.
Yeah. That doesn't mean be annoying. That doesn't mean be a brat. Doesn't mean be disheveled. But that just means like be your best self and be authentic and don't hide things. Don't hide parts of your personality or whatever.
No.
So it's not fair to that person either because then they think that they're getting to know you, but then
it's a lose-lose if you do that.
Yeah,
yeah. And then you're going to resent yourself and maybe the other person. If they fell in love with a fake version of you and not you, you're going to resent that person. Then you're also going to feel guilty for yourself that you put that facade up. And it actually it's more effort to do that.
Yeah.
So much less draining, and the world's already draining enough. Just don't, stress yourself out any more than you need to. Be who you are.
Yeah.
Be relaxed. That's actually a more feminine way of being, is just you and chill, relax. Like that's a really nice energy to be around.
Yeah. Have your authentic you and your persona to everyone. Try to mirror them. Like try to make them one as much as possible. It's really hard to do that, but like the more you can work at that, the easier life is. And it's like, it sucks being around fake friends too and fake people. And like, it feels so draining to have to go out and not be yourself. Like that's so draining.
I can't do that. Yeah.
But you'd go through periods where you can do that in your life,
Yeah, that's something that I've kind of battled with because I think I've been able to be a little bit of a comedian.
A chameleon.
Chameleon, yeah, sorry.
You're funny too, but yeah.
No, I'm not a comedian. I have thought that I can be a little bit of a chameleon, and to some people that might seem inauthentic.
Yeah.
But no, I do think that there are aspects of your personality that you can just draw out more. It doesn't mean it's not your personality. It just means that you know how to draw out and draw back specific ones based on who you're with and around.
I think
it
that
doesn't mean it's not
good.
all your personality. It just means you're kind of morphing it and catering it, and that isn't inauthentic.
Right. I think one of the reasons why you and I get along so well is because I think we do have a wide range of what people we can hang out with, like things we could pull out of our hat to discuss or whatever.
Yeah. Different modes. Like I go from like super nature girl granola mode to more competitive to like business me. You know, I can talk to like older adults, 80 years old and be totally old school. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on who you're with, who you're talking to.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to be with someone that's like so blunt and so like in one mode. It can be a little jarring sometimes.
Yeah. I know. I'm very curious of what that would be like because I feel like no matter how hard I try,
know someone I come
never...
to mind that is like that.
Yes, I do too. Yeah, I know a few people like that. But I respect it.
No,
you know?
It's better than being fake, honestly. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about gender role, birth control, that stuff? The birth control. We talked about the gender role stuff.
Do we go through the rest of the ins and outs, or should we just kind of?
No, I'm on the next one, which is the birth control.
Okay.
What? I forget what the in is for that. In is like intuition.
Intuition.
Making decisions with intuition and
yes,
natural.
Yeah. Okay. So my assumption, based on what I know about birth control, having had a past of being on birth control for many years, and now about 3 years that I haven't been on it.
Okay.
I feel like I have had a good amount of time in both to analyze how I feel and who I am at that time.
Okay.
And I've only been able to come to this realization with multiple years having been off of it, because I think it really does take a long time for the body to reconfigure itself once you get off of the pill. That was the form that I had. But I do think that it alters a woman's brain chemistry and the way that we process emotions and the way that we experience the world in so many ways. Yeah. And so we know that women's intuition is one of our greatest strengths. It's something that men don't have at the same level or in the same way that women have it. Mm-hmm. And so would it be wrong to think that wouldn't be messing up our intuition and our intuitive capabilities, as if our brain chemistry is a little bit out of balance from the pill, or from a synthetic hormonal reconstruction, that wouldn't influence our emotional processing and our ability to think intuitively?
Yes, I think it does for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it wouldn't. I think what sucks too is when you're on birth control and you're maybe someone like you and me, where we didn't have like some physical horrible reaction that made us like immediately be like, no, we have to get off this. For so long, it was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I'm normal. Like, I'm fine. I'm easygoing. Like, we chill.
Adapted to our new norm.
Right. And I've always been such a chill, like, type B, like, easy, like, not an anxious, not a very depressed person. And I think because I wasn't at the stage of like being diagnosed or like going on SSRIs or something like that, I didn't realize that I was still being affected. I was still like overreacting to like conflict or things that normally wouldn't upset me that much, or normally I would have a different like solution or a different way to go about it. Like it's crazy how much and for any guy that's not listening, or even maybe a girl that doesn't know this, what birth control does, it makes your body think it's pregnant 24/7. So you're dealing with a woman that has the same hormonal chemistry as a pregnant woman for years. So it's like, that is so crazy to me, especially going through being pregnant and postpartum. And like, and now that I look back at it, I was like, I was honestly probably crazier on birth control than even being pregnant, and I was probably crazy pregnant too. But like,
at least when you were pregnant, you weren't on birth control.
But like, like that's insane. Like that. How do we just say that that's like that we just have to suck it up and do that.
Well, I just
Like
think
I'm over it.
We're in
I'm
this
so over
feminist
it,
phase,
you know?
right? Where every woman is, or so many women are subscribing to postmodern feminism and want to empower each other and to empower, us, flourishing in this world and being capable and competent and well-rounded and be able to do all these things and have good mental health and physical health. Why would we be promoting this drug that is restricting our most valuable capability that men don't have, which is our intuition?
Right.
If birth control directly dilutes and is destroying that ability to some extent, why would we be taking that? Like, imagine if every woman truly leaned into their intuition in the most healthy, organic, raw way possible, what we could be capable of.
Well, can I say something? You know what we are capable of?
What?
We got RFK in as head
Yes.
of the HHS. And
Yes.
that was a woman's intuition movement in my soul. It was the moms. It was the moms. It was the
moms.
women. It was the women who want to be moms, that are moms that care.
It was the 20-year-old girls that are unhealthy and need a change.
And
we don't want to buy $15 eggs that are still hijacked by.
That was my worst breakup. What's my worst?
You guys, if you haven't listened to our October surprise episode, which was the last one we recorded, I think there was 20 minutes of that episode where we just talked about eggs. And since then, there have been some massive revelations. And it was that our favorite egg brand that we thought was organic, all organic, pasture raised, like worth the investment. They are feeding the chickens corn and soy, which like totally cancels out the pasture raised and
situation.
Organic. It's quote unquote organic, but no, it's not, because they're still feeding the chickens inflammatory food.
And they're dyeing the yolk, apparently. Like, it was like a whole investigation.
They're dyeing the yolk?
Apparently the yolk is not naturally that yellow.
Oh no.
I know. It's just, I haven't found
It's getting worse.
I haven't found a new replacement brand.
I really want on the labels of foods, especially animal-based products, if we could see what they were being fed, like grass-fed beef, for example. We know that if it's 100% grass-fed, that cow was 100% grass-fed in their lives. Like, I think that should be the same for eggs, because we can see these are 100% grain-fed chicken, not corn and soy.
I think being a mom has been so it's been such a powerful thing for me, because I was telling you about how I noticed, like, Lito's he doesn't watch any TV, he doesn't do screen time, so I'm like his main influence, like how I talk to him, how I am around, like I'm the one, like that's how he learns how to like talk to people, what tone, all that stuff. And like, you don't realize like how much power is in that. You are shaping an entire human, and you're gonna give that up so they can go sit in front of Cocomelon and like learn how to
Peppa Pig,
like, and learn how to like Caillou, where Caillou was a brat and like talked badly to his parents and like had a rude tone. Like, no, like I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Like, I am. Obviously, Lito is his own human. Obviously, he has his own preferences, and he is his own human, and I love that about him. But it's like, I am going to curate an environment that sets him up for the most success to be a good human and an interesting human and a thoughtful person and someone that speaks kindly and you know, and why would I just inject that by watching, like, exposing him to certain songs or movies or whatever?
I think a lot of parents get in the cycle of, it's just this one.
It's just this one.
Or
it's a kid's movie, so it's fine.
Every minute, like, time goes slower when you're a kid. As we get older, we see time just flying faster.
Right.
I remember a year as a kid felt like an absolute eternity, and that's because they're so much more in tune and to the ground, and their brains are so
malleable
that a minute is very influential of whatever that is. Yeah. So to think that wouldn't have an effect is super naive.
Yeah. And so I think us being like sedated on birth control has not made us be like in thinking intuitively, and therefore all these like quote unquote experts come in and they fill they fill the gaps of that intuition with whatever they're like
Yeah.
saying or
We've
trying to tell
replaced
you what to
intuition
do
with matter of factness.
and
Like it's of black and white.
And
no, intuition is innately gray.
right, and that's how it should be, because like it's so dangerous to be kind of like have a full baked idea about everything.
Yeah.
You want to always be somewhat half baked so that you can at any point say no. Like at any point you can be like, no, I'm not doing that.
To
like
be able to reevaluate.
to leave room to reevaluate. You always should do that, because otherwise you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, especially with parenting too.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good example.
And how many women, if your brain chemistry is being changed and what you're prioritizing is being changed, and how much when you're in those formative years of high school and college where you're planning for your future, do you then end up at 35 and you're like, what is this life that I built for myself once you come off birth control maybe? Because you can't even recognize the life that you built for yourself because you built it while you were on a drug where your brain was chemistry. So imagine if you're on this drug and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to not date this person because and then you get off birth control and then you're like, wait a second, like that ex was actually my person, but I couldn't recognize that because of my brain, or I didn't really want to go to law school. I wanted to like pursue this. And you're pursuing these super masculine things. You're like, oh, I've adapted to a 24-hour cycle and now I don't know, like I do the same thing every day, which is very masculine. That's not feminine. And now you're 35 years old and you're having a real period for the first time.
It's like
and you're
looking
like,
at your
wow.
life and it's like that was a different life.
Right.
Who was that?
Right.
Who was that person making these decisions?
Yeah.
Because knowing the new me now, I wouldn't make those decisions in that same way.
Right. And you're always going to evolve and change and like have regrets even if you weren't on birth control. But I think the birth control like artificially inflames all of that.
I agree. It exacerbates it. I think it exacerbates the amount of regret.
Yeah.
Maybe more regret in a shorter period of time.
Do you want to talk about it getting into the water and stuff? And then men drinking that?
Okay. So I don't have a source to cite for this right now, but I think I've heard it and read it in a few different resources and podcasts. And so I think people forget that the water, like water doesn't have a full reset ever. Yeah. So we filter it, but there's never a point where, water from a drain or the toilet or a shower or the sink that it goes to a place and gets fully refreshed and then it's sent back out to us. It doesn't work that way. So anything that goes into our water is going to have some sort of long-term life cycle in our water supply. And from birth control and it being in women's bodies in such a high amount, we are basically like peeing that out and it's getting into the water supply. And so when men drink unfiltered water, like ultra, like tap water, they're actually ingesting those female hormones. Yeah. And it's in a very large quantity. And so that's contributing to men's testosterone
not
levels
just drink it, but we're cooking with the water. We're putting it on our skin or showering in the water. Mm-hmm. Like, the best type of water you can get is like to drink is like glass bottled spring water.
Yes.
Like Mountain View.
Not
or
plastic
like
bottles.
The Sedona brand.
That's a good one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That Sedona water is like,
it tastes amazing.
It's so good.
I've heard some bad things about Fiji.
Yeah.
Fiji water and
Smart water's not good.
Smart water's horrible. Dasani, Arrowhead, any water bottle manufacturer that's producing them and putting them in bottles.
Yeah.
Materials in a plastic bottle.
Yeah. Material like glass is king. So
yeah. So I feel bad for the men because I don't think they know that. And
they don't. And I bet a lot of them don't even care too, because I don't know.
Like, I'm not alone. So
yeah, I saw this TikTok and it was like, but this guy, was stupid guy was like, where are all the girls that used to have IUDs? And I think guys are starting to pick up that we're all waking up, and it's going to start affecting dating culture soon because people are not going to want to sleep around as much. Like people are going to have higher standards. It's all like it's slowly, but it's going to people aren't wanting to go to the clubs as much. Like there's going to like high valued people, like high quality people, whatever, like not everyone has value as humans, obviously, but what I mean is just like I don't know. Do you
highly intentional people?
Highly intentional people are gonna get. It's gonna get more and more that way. Like once you start, you're not gonna stop. It's a progression, and so then it's gonna influence other people to do that as well. And I think you talked about men lead culture. Like you've talked about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think women set the tone, and you've like we set the tone.
We're the neck. We're the head.
We're the muse. We guide we're the muse.
Yes.
So, like us getting off, if everyone just got off birth control and just like made their standards a little bit better, like everyone would have to like
adjust
because that would become the new normal.
I want that to become the new normal because I think these ramifications we're seeing of men's physiology being tampered with, and women's too, our mental health being affected, our intuition being suppressed. There are physical symptoms that we're facing that are not good. And that's not even talking about the fertility rates. I mean, our fertility rates are terrible. So
yes, and one of the most powerful forces in the world is like a healthy masculine and a healthy feminine having alignment. Like that is such a powerful like force.
I agree.
For good. It's just so powerful. And so anything that hijacks that is not good.
Instant red flag.
Red flag. Like, no.
I'm glad we talked about that though.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Good.
We talked about the water. We did talk about gender roles a little bit. I feel like that last bit.
What about private main quest build in silence?
Yes. Okay. Where did you first hear this?
No, probably some like motivational podcast or something. Some book. I
think we, for sure you, but I think both of us have been following in suit of this piece of advice for a while.
Build in silence. Yeah.
I think with social media, there's this trend of having to document whatever you're working on to prove to people that you're working on something.
Yeah. Like it's like your step one.
And when you do that, you kind of lose the integrity of the project, or it loses its hard hittingness. And when you leave the breadcrumbs, it's almost like, it dilutes it. So if you were to wait to post an announcement of something you've been working on until the very end when it's fully ready to show the world, instead of, show it before, then it'd be a cool reveal.
Yeah.
But also, aside from that, just having a side quest on top of like work or your full-time job or whatever, it's a good way to have creative expression and
have a quest. Like when people ask, you should always have one quest that when people are asking you like what's new, you just don't tell them. Like how is one thing that you just keep to yourself.
You don't have to tell everyone.
You don't tell everyone everything, and just like you can tell people like the other stuff, like like dating this person, or I'm like doing this thing at work. But like if you have this like one little project that's just like yours and you don't share it till it's like ready, because it allows you to, because the problem is too is like let's say you're working on something like super time intensive. Like I made that like Chapman video, and that took me like a really long time because I wanted to like do it right, and I also had like my own time constraints because it wasn't like the only thing I was working on. And I feel like if I had like kept updating everyone like how it's going, or then people ask about it more, and then that just stresses you out because then you want to like finish it faster, as opposed to like finishing it on your own terms and your own time. And going back to our theme of like the golden era or golden age and like Renaissance and like art, art
can't be rushed.
It can't be rushed. It has to take time. It has to be on the artist's time. And that doesn't mean be a procrastinator or whatever, but like, you gotta.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I want to find the quote that I wrote down on the art topic, because I know I said earlier in this episode that I wanted to talk about it later.
Yeah.
But something we were kind of trying to start talking about, we hadn't landed on a decision yet, is all content art, and could all art be considered content? And my first impression to that is no, art and content are completely different, and we're actively right now in this digital age defining what content is so much clearer. And digital content is the first type of content that comes to mind to me. But I think content is a lot more of a capitalistic term, and art is like a non-capitalistic kind of
Yeah. It's non-conforming.
Yes, it's its own. It lives on its own, and they're not the same.
Yeah. I don't think I could say it any better. I think that's perfect.
Okay, cool. Good. Some more food for thought for y'all.
Okay. What about...
We have such a big list.
We're almost done. What about free range ponies? We talk about that. That's a big theme.
We can't be cage ponies right now, guys.
Don't be
We are
caged.
free range.
Don't be a cage chicken, be a free range pony. What does that mean to you?
Well, I've never loved authority. I've never really been much of a rule follower. I think what that means to me is it's okay to question the rules, to question authority, to question constructs, to be an independent thinker, to break free of the cage where you can, if you have the skills to do so. To me, it's independence, it's freedom, it's the American dream.
Be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to yourself. Be expressive. I feel like a free range pony is very emotionally expressive, radiative.
Strength and vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Horses are so in tuned.
Yes.
Have you heard about horse therapy? We talked about horse therapy, right? On the last
Equine
podcast.
therapy, yeah.
Yes. Whitney Cummings talks about that.
I should look into that.
I want to go to Whitney Cummings' farm and do it. Like go to her ranch and just like do it.
Whitney, can we pay you to do this with us?
No, but if anyone doesn't know, the horses can sense your true nature, like your true vibe, and if you're being authentic or not. And so people who struggle with like not knowing their true selves or whatever, like it helps being around a horse because they don't want to be around you if you're not being authentic. I think that's the therapy, right?
Yeah,
it's something to that extent.
I think horses
it's good for celebrities.
Horses are cool because they're really standalone on their own when they're solo.
Yeah.
But they also are very social and they work well in groups.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a lot of us humans is everyone has some extroversion side of them and everyone has some introversion, and we're just on this journey of having moments in both. So yeah, free range ponies. I think that's another good symbol for 2025.
Okay, I feel like that was most of our ins and outs list. Do you want to talk about looking at the wait, what was
we had a
holding space for wait, okay, what about like specific things coming up, like Notre Dame reopening, like movies that we know are coming that could come, like predictions for like cultural things that are happening.
2025 has a lot.
Okay.
It doesn't have the 250th year anniversary. If that fell next year, that would be insane.
Yeah.
But there's already a lot.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame's reopening in just a couple months, right?
I thought it already reopened.
Oh, it already did? Okay.
Yeah, Trump was there.
Seriously, the
first mass was like right before Christmas.
I really think that was a big event that happened in this blip.
It was.
And now that it reopened,
it happened in 2019.
It's also marking the end of the blip.
We're the bookend. It's a bookend.
Yeah.
And it's such a great.
I'm pretty sure the Sagrada Familia is also finally opening too.
What's that?
It's the massive cathedral in Barcelona that's been
there we go
under construction for actually like 150 years.
Yeah, since the 1800s.
Yeah. So we have those two, and then it's also a Jubilee year next year, which is where all all of the Catholics all around the world go to Rome to celebrate the Jubilee during the
Christmas
span of a
season.
week over Christmas season. And it's essentially just an extra holy year. And it encourages pilgrimages, you know, being out in the world, actually just being more expressive of the faith. And so that's something that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd be so down to go to Rome for that. I think it'd be so incredible.
I know. I've always wanted to do like a pilgrimage. There's so many cool ones. Like there's so many ones that are like walking or like art related or like just that I just love the richness of the Catholic Church in that way, and like the history and all those things, that the cultural elements too. And I feel like one of my favorite quotes that will help bring this to light with a lot of this culture stuff is, be in the world, not of it.
When you say not of it, what do you mean by that?
It means be in the world, like put your mark on the world, be involved in your community, contribute, do great things, but don't, like, there's more to life than pleasure, one happiness.
Yes.
Like, being of something means that you're
a byproduct
with it. You're a byproduct of it. And it's like, no, I'm my own being interacting with the world. I'm my own creation, my own autonomy. I'm my own entity.
Like, you're not by proxy of the world. You are you, and then there's the world.
And you're interacting.
You have a relationship with each other.
Correct. But you are not, the world did not create you.
Yes.
You
and certainly higher powers that are quote unquote running the world did not create you. And you do not owe them anything.
Correct. Yes. So I love that quote.
That's a great quote. I really
great.
like that.
It's a great quote to like orient yourself with, like, how much value should I give something, and how much influence should I let it come over my life and my decision making. Like, let's say you only put I put value on like food tasting good and music sounding good and all that. It's okay. Let's say in the relationship of like dating. I don't know. Let's say, okay, if you were dating someone and the only things that you were basing, are you compatible with that person, is like surface level things, there's just going to not be a very interesting long-term relationship. Like it's going to reach a level of like, okay, yeah, you like the same music. Okay, yeah, you like the same food. Like you like the same coffee place. Yeah. Like, that's great. But those things are they change all the time, first of all. People's music taste change all the time. It should. It expands, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But it's also like, at the end of the day, those aren't the most important things. And you know that. In a moment, you can lose a sense. You could go blind. Yeah. You could lose your sense of taste. Yeah. And then you lose that connection with that thing. So you have to be aiming for like these higher level happiness things.
Yes.
Which are like your values. What are you doing for your community? Like,
yeah, you could say even just like an instantaneous moment of smelling something that smells good, that's still kind of level 1 happiness.
Right.
It's not fulfilling.
Right.
It's pleasurable. It activates like a little burst of dopamine in your brain, but it's not the same level of happiness as like an accomplishment or giving back or something that fulfills a higher purpose for you and what you're capable of in life.
Right. And it's like, if you're someone that's like your whole life revolves around going to like raves, for example, like it's just like, that's being of the world, not in it.
Yes.
Like being in it is like, okay, go to a rave here or there, but like I'm also making my mark on the world. I'm also prioritizing like higher level happiness things, you know, that
being of the world means you're mostly just a consumer, not a producer too.
Oh, yes.
I think we need to be more producers.
Yes.
And right now, I think with the tools we have on hand and the devices, the tech, the connectability that we all have wherever we're at, as long as you can connect to the internet, I mean,
there's no excuse.
There's definitely. I think that we're making more producers, which is good. More people are producers, but especially in this era now that we'll have some better leadership and we don't all have to be stressed out and worrying about, is the world going to be standing tomorrow?
Right. We don't have to worry about World War III.
Yeah. Really start to work on projects again and work. Like, that's what I want to do. I really want to work hard.
Well, remember
and
you
I want to give back, and I want to make the world a better place.
Yeah. You had that list of things, and you said, I'm not making these decisions until after the election.
I had a decisions to not even decide, but to like just revisit after the election. Like a lot of them I haven't even fully closed out yet, but I've at least reopened the list. But it was a really long list. It was everything from just my day-to-day routines to my living situation to my career decisions. And yeah, I really thought that every single category of that decisions list had something to do with the outcome of the election, because it's just easier to make decisions when you know a near future like landscape of what things are most likely going to look like.
Yeah, there's some stability in that.
Yeah, I don't think I would have had the same stability to make those decisions if the election had a different outcome. Yeah. And there's always an event that can happen. There's a natural disaster. There's
But
always World War
but
III.
it was
there are nuclear bombs on planet Earth.
Right. But it was very clear that if we did not course correct, that was coming. Like,
yes.
If we did not course correct and reject war.
Have you ever talked about World War III more in a year than this past year?
No, and I don't want to ever again.
Like the fact that it actually became so much of a household conversation topic.
We were talking about women in the draft.
Like, I was just like out for happy hour with just random girlfriends that I just met, and World War III is a conversation topic. Yeah. That has never really been like that. No. To this level in America than it was this year.
No.
Yeah.
So it wasn't in my head. I wasn't making it up. Like, I wasn't being hyperbolic.
Yeah.
Like, no.
So
it was a real fear.
We're talking about it in seriousness and prepping.
Yeah. So I feel very grateful. And I think to sum it all up, I felt like at the election, I said this earlier, I felt like we were giving a second chance. We were given, like, God's mercy was there. It just, for it to go as smoothly as it did, there's just no way.
Happens for a reason.
There's just no way that there wasn't divine intervention through all of this, these last 6 months. Like, it's just so clear.
I agree.
And and there were so many people praying, and like, even what I experienced with the Trump assassination, like, for that to go the way that it did, and then for, like, even with the hurricane stuff, I mean, we recorded and they were supposed to have a category 5 or 6, ended up being like a 2 or 3. And there were all these people like
divine intervention
praying. And I mean, it's just like, it's so beautiful. And that doesn't mean you just are thankless and you don't do anything with that intervention. You give it the gratitude, and then you launch. What was our launch? Level up.
And then you level up.
So we're leveling up into the golden age, and that's all I have to say. I don't have anything else to say.
We'll have to keep you guys posted on what our official phrase for 2025 ends up being.
Do you want to share yours?
We have some contenders. I don't have my personal one decided.
Okay, it's not Thrive.
I think that's a contender. But I'm waiting for the epiphany moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thrive in 2025 was one that I thought of. Level up could be one. All I know is I want the phrase to encapsulate all pillars of life.
Okay.
And the main 4 pillars being, social, spiritual, intellectual, physical. Like, I want it to kind of cover everything. But I don't know.
Ode to Chapman.
But I do think that when you try to get a little bit more specific, sometimes specificity in that way can help you manifest a more direct result.
Okay.
And so if I get more specific with it, maybe I could have a more effective outcome. Through that.
Yeah, so. Everyone, if you haven't already, it's really helpful to like pick a word, a special word.
Yeah. I know everyone's in New Year's resolution vision board kind of mode right now. So
pick a word that you want to be your theme for next year, and like you come back to it. We've talked about it before, but
do you have one?
Yeah, mine's relaunch or retrenching.
Oh, yes.
My retrenching year.
Retrenching.
I want to say retrenching because it sounds cooler, but that's not the proper word. It's retrenching. Yeah. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah, it's my retrenching.
Keep it.
Yeah. This year was my game on. The year before was my. What was it? It was like a good one.
Wasn't it like?
It was like enjoying. It was Oh, my redemption.
Redemption year.
And then before that was surrender.
Mine this year has been Smell the Flowers.
Yeah, it's such a good one.
Hands down.
Such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I like the ones that are kind of action steps. Like Game On is like action step oriented.
I know. And I still have 2 more weeks. I need to like close it out strong.
Yeah, flush
I've
it
been
out.
slacking a little bit.
I think that the time between, I mean, everyone says that the week between Christmas and New Year's is that purgatory where it's just like no one's working. It's just weird. Yeah. It's a weird aura. But I felt like this year, between Thanksgiving and Christmas felt more like that than previous years. Yeah. It hasn't been the most productive past couple of work weeks.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm just really excited for that week between Christmas and New Year's to just journal. I think I'm literally just going to journal for a week.
Oh, are you taking the week off?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
well,
nice.
we normally have that.
Oh, nice. That's nice.
So
yeah, you could do like a day trip somewhere too.
Yeah, that'd be
go somewhere.
Yeah, one of my New Year's resolutions is, and this might be a joint one, is a monthly adventure.
We went kayaking with horses, some real free range, like fresh
source,
like full, like no owners, nothing.
They were just in this river that we were kayaking down, and they were just eating the kelp and
chilling. We got close to them. One of them was pregnant.
Yeah.
Faye. Our girl Faye.
I named her Faye.
So yeah, go out, like go enjoy the world. Go be in the world.
Yeah, I do think if people made that more of a routine commitment, just being out in the world and getting out of the concrete jungles we're in.
Oh yeah.
It'd be so much more connective and resetting.
Yeah, wear your wired headphones. Drink out of a glass bottle.
Seed oils. Avoid Vital Farms eggs.
we went from
banning us from talking about eggs in the next episode.
We went from being like their favorite customer to talking smack about it. Yeah, but that's okay. Well,
maybe Bill Gates owns the company.
Who the hell knows?
Probably someone like that.
Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone, and yeah, give your family a hug, your friends a hug. It's time to be grateful.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We're really excited for 2025, and yeah, we really hope that this episode made you feeling a little bit more positive.
Very positive.
Toward the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. All right. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.